Hi, I'm Michaela Morris, and I'm doing a documentary on the Tuskegee Airmen. The Tuskegee Airmen was the country's first black military pilots. The Army Air Corps, also known as the AAC, which became before the U.S., they received their training at the Tuskegee Army Airfield in Alabama. And during World War II, they flew more than 15,000 individual sorties in Europe and North Africa, earning more than 150 distinguished flying across their outstanding performance that encouraged the eventual integration of the U.S. Armed Forces. Thousands of young men and women clamored to follow in the footsteps of record-breaking pilots like Charles Lindbergh and Amelia Earhart throughout the 1920s and 1930s as their ex-pilots enthralled the nation. But there were enormous barriers for young African Americans who wanted to become pilots, starting with the widely held notion that black people couldn't learn to fly or handle complex aircraft. Franklin D. Roosevelt declared in 1938 that he would expand the civil pilot training program in the United States as Europe teetered on the edge of another major conflict. The American armed forces, as well as a large portion of the nation, were still segregated on basis of race at the time. A large portion of the military established, especially in the South, held the opinion that black soldiers were inferior to white and had a subpar fighting skills. However, black Republicans like Chicago Defenders and Pittsburgh News joined civil rights organizations like the NAACP and demanded that black Americans be included in the AAC, stepped up into training programs. In response to these lobbying operations, Roosevelt's White House declared in September 1940 that the AAC would shortly start training black pilots. The Tuskegee Army Airfield in Tuskegee, Alabama, which was then under construction, was selected by the War Department as a training facility. It was situated in the heart of the Jim Crow South and was home to the famed Tuskegee Institute, founded by Booker T. Washington. The trainees for the program, almost whom were recent college grads or undergrads, came from all over the nation. In addition to training, close to 14,000 navigators, bombarders, instructors, aircraft and engineer mechanics, control tower operators, and other maintenance and support employees, the Tuskegee program produced about 1,000 pilots. Benjamin O. Davis Jr., a West Point alumnus and one of the two black officers in the whole U.S. military, was one of the 13 members in the first class of aviation candidates in 1941. Eleanor Roosevelt visited to the airfield in 1941, helped the Tuskegee experiment advance significantly. The First Lady was given a real tour by Charles Anderson, the program's chief flight instructor at the time, and pictures and videos. They flew missions in second-hand P-40 aircraft that were slower and most difficult to control than their German equivalents in North Africa and later Sicilia. Davis was required to defend his troop before a War Department committee when the commander of the 99th Assigned Pilot Group complained about squadron's performance. The 79th Pilot Group, white pilots, served with the members of the 99th Pilot Group in Italy as opposed to being sent home. The 99th pilots made some progress with their battle regardless at the beginning of 1944 when they shot down 12 German pilots in the span of 2 days. The 100th, 300th, 1st, and the 302nd Fighter Squadron, which included black pilots and other personnel, landed in Italy in February 1944, together with the 99th. These pilots formed their new 332nd Pilot Group. After this change, the 332nd pilots started using P-51 Mustangs to accompany their 15th Air Force heavily bombers on missions deep in the enemy territory. They were known as the Red Tails because the tails of their aircraft was painted red and aid in identification. Although they were more well-known Tuskegee Airmen, black pilots also worked on bomber crew for the 1944 founded 477th Bombardment Group. There was a persistent fallacy that the Tuskegee
through thorough examination revealed that enemy plane had downed at least 25 bombers they were escorting. Was the truth finally revealed? However, compared to other escort units of the 15th Air Force, which had lost an average of 46 bombers, that success percent was far higher. The Tuskegee Airmen flew more than 15,000 distinct combat flights over the course of 2 years by the time the 332nd completed its final mission on April 26, 1945, 2 weeks before the Germans surrendered. They had damaged and destroyed approximately 1,000 rails and transport cars, 36 German aircraft in the air, 237 on the ground, as well as German cruisers. A total of 66 Tuskegee trained pilots lost their lives in combat during the World War II, while an additional 32 were shot down and taken prisoner of war. The Tuskegee Airmen served valiant overseas and then returned home to a nation where they were still subjected to institutionalized racism and prejudice. However, they did signify a significant advancement in the country's preparation for racial integration of the military, which started with President Harry Truman Executive Order 998 disintegration of the U.S. on July 26, 1948. The armed forces mandated equality of opportunity and treatment. Many of the original Tuskegee Airmen would go on to have longer military careers. Notable Davis, who raised to become the country's first black general, George S. Air Force Spanky Roberts, the first black force colonel to command a racially mixed squadron, and Daniel James Jr., who in 1975 became the country's first black four-star general. President George W. Bush presented the Congress gold medals to more than 300 of the original Tuskegee Airmen in 2007. The nation's first African-American president, Barack Obama, invited the surviving Tuskegee trained pilots and support staff to his inauguration 2 years later. Obama had previously stated that his career in public service would not be made possible by the past heroes like the Tuskegee Airmen trailblazed.